Good afternoon. It's August 28th. This is an open door. Welcome, 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 everyone. It's a beautiful day here in Maine. We're all over the place, all of us who are on this Zoom call. Want to thank Cindy Krupp and An Open Door for the opportunity to be together and to take a look at this podcast together. This is Finding Truth Everywhere, which we do every Thursday at noon. And this is a conversation between a filmmaker, researcher, Kai Dickens, who has done the podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, and Andre Decum, who is a podcaster extraordinaire. He's really quite an amazing human being. Um, this podcast was really interesting. I'm just going to give a couple highlights because I know all of you have things to say about this podcast. So I'll just go through some of the highlights and then open it up because I'm sure that the discussion is going to be really interesting. It was obvious that Andre really liked Kai. He was so warm and welcoming with her, and the whole podcast was about what he called, or she called, the cultural zeitgeist, which is that challenges to the current paradigms. And this is the paradigm about consciousness. And Kai begins by talking about savant syndrome, which is the syndrome in which people get head trauma, or maybe they're just born this way, but they have these uncanny abilities to calculate pi out to 22 digits or decimal points, or play music that they've had no musical training in. And we accept these, the scientific community accepts these as real events. They can't explain them, but the scientific community says, yes, this is happening. And so Dickens is basically saying, why don't we accept this about um, the um, the neurological deficits that people have, the skills that people are born with that are non-speaking. They have this neurological deficit, quote unquote, because they can't speak. But what does that do to their brain and to their receiving channel in other ways? And so that was the most of the question. I want to just also give credit to Dr. Hennessy, Diane Hennessy Powell, because she is the researcher that really began this research on the non-speaking kids, and she lost her medical license. She was Harvard trained, and she submitted this paper on the non-speaking kids, her research with them. And the panel that relicensed her just did not relicense her and admitted later that they hadn't really even read the paper, and they reinstated her medical license. So Dickens heard about Powell and came in and began to do these recordings and documenting of Powell's research. And she says, Dickens said that when she first started, she bought her own random number generators. She brought her own equipment, her own everything, her own questions, because she was so cynical and skeptical about what was happening that she wanted to make sure that she herself was actually convinced. And she was. And many of the people that she brought in to do the filming also weren't convinced. And when they left after the filming of some of these experiments, many of the folks were so moved that they couldn't even describe what had happened to them, changed them forever. So the other thing that was really stood out for me was that materialism and the materialistic paradigm is a big block. And one of the biggest challenges, she said, is that We are learning that we're living in a paradigm, a materialistic paradigm that has become self-limiting. And she says, what did she say? Well, I'm sure that you'll remember the three stages of a paradigm change. First, it's what is it? It's I don't know. It's complete disbelief. Then it's attack, and then it's basically accepting it has always been true. But we'll talk about that later. Um, so that is what happened, though, with Powell. She got her funding was eliminated, her reputation was attacked. Um, there was an unwillingness in the community to even talk about the research she was doing, and she was, the basic response was that smart people, intelligent people, don't believe in these things. And so that's how you're just excluded from the group. Um, and so this reminded me a little bit of the level, and of course in miracles, the level reality or levels of understanding, because at this level in the materialist 3D world, there are certain laws that do apply, and we don't need to get rid of those. And Dickens was very clear about that. We don't need to get rid of them, but we need to invert the pyramid, right? Invert the pyramid so the big base of the pyramid at the top is consciousness. And what comes down to the beginning is materialism, right at that little teeny tiny point. And I loved this quote from Andre. Paradox is a signature of depth. It's not a failure of logic. So materialism has its place. It's just not the whole story. Two things can be true simultaneously. And then he quoted Niels Bohr, who said, multiple things can be true simultaneously. The opposite of a fact is a falsehood, but the opposite of a profound truth can be another profound truth, right? I love that. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Um, one of the last things I'll say is one of the non-speakers asked, okay, you're so interested in proving, trying to prove with us with these instruments, you're so committed to trying to prove what we're doing, but the medium through which we're doing this is love. And why don't you try to understand what love is, right? And and she said, these kids are pure, they are transparent, right? And truth transcends proof in its own way, right? You don't need to understand the biochemistry of food to know that you enjoy it, right? Right? I love the chocolate frosting I made. I don't give a flying rat's patoot what's in it. I don't care. I just know my body really enjoys the taste of it, right?
Right.
And so the last thing she said, which I really, really loved, um, I'm going to try and find this. Um, okay. Oh God, there was just so much. We'll come back to it. But the last thing they talked about was the challenge of this stuff being considered fraudulent or these kids being charlatans. And she said, yes, exploiters abound. Of course, the world is full of people who live in fear and scarcity, and they're willing to use any means to assuage their fear and to try to eliminate scarcity in their lives. But these kids, these non-speakers, are so pure and so transparent. They're not after media or money. They don't care. And they're not ego driven. And she said the idea that they would make all of this up is so ridiculous when you see it. because they have so little ego. And she said they're all of them, they're either telling the truth or they're all lying. And that just is that's kind of a gut punch in a way to those that might say, "Oh, this is ridiculous." Um, so I'm just going to open it up because I'm sure everyone has so many things they want to say about it. I have lots more, so if by some strange occurrence no one has anything to say, I will be happy to fill in the blanks. So, Livy, you're first up. Raise your hand and we'll go from there.
All right. Hey, everybody. So really the only thing that I want to share, and I'll be really quick, was I felt I have a really dear friend who is with me only in her energy now. Her physical being has left the planet. And I got some of her books related to crystals and stones, and she always had them laid out. And I just felt like she said that she would, be given a hard time about her love of that. And I just felt like there was just a big shout out to my friend Vicky when they were talking about when she started talking about the crystals and the stones and everything. And I've always been fascinated with stones and rocks and things like that. And whenever I had friends who were going overseas, I have rocks and pebbles from Rome, from Italy, different places in Italy, from England. I just have always been really fascinated with them. But it was just really wonderful to feel my friend Vicky with me when the woman said that, and kind of her going, see. So anyway, that just really warmed my heart. And I look forward to hearing what everybody else says. Um, yeah. So I'm especially Rana. So I'm just because I was wondering the same thing when I was listening to it. So anyway, I sure do love all y'all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I
Thank
love
you,
that too.
Amy.
Yeah, right on, Livy. I thought that was so great. And they talked about life is not a collection of objects, but a union of subjective content, right? How beautiful is that? You can't see the Earth's magnetic field, and we also have a mental field, right? I love that. So yeah, thank you for that. And beautiful. Yeah. And don't hesitate to speak up again. Okay, Julie, you're up.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, I just love this interview, and I agree with you that he really liked her and respected her, and yeah, it was just yeah, it just blew me away. You touched on a lot of the things that I was like, wow, wow, and I even had a conversation with Rana this morning because I thought, did this have anything to do with Kylie? So I'm so excited she's going to be able to share. One of the things I liked, well, the biggest thing I loved, and that was at the end when she said someone described what is love, and someone had said anything that unifies. And I just thought, oh, how beautiful. So simple, just so simple. And then the other one I liked was what we're thinking is manifesting. And, the world, what we're thinking, it could be good or it could be bad. And I thought about that because I'm really working on trying to changing my thinking to be more about love and positive vibes. And I didn't realize I am realizing now that just even any little negativity, it goes out there, and so that really was like ding, 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 ding. And I liked when she talked about most spiritual are the ones that have had trauma. And then they talked about understanding your shadow, and forgiveness is the highest spiritual level that we can achieve. And I thought that was really cool. Um, One thing I wanted to end with, I love how she looked at a year ago how she was going to do a documentary on it and she couldn't get the funding, and then she was really upset and she was crying, and she went on a walk with a friend that practices Buddhism, and she was saying, you know something will come to you. Just, be patient. And all of a sudden the next day she was like, do a podcast. And how everybody thought she was, a little, okay, you're a little out there. But just to see how she was willing to surrender. And once she was able to surrender, then that the podcast came to her, and that's what I'm truly working on now too, is really working on that surrendering, focusing on today. If something doesn't work out, that there's a reason and it's okay, and just surrender. God's got me. So it just, yeah. So I don't know who recommended this, but loved it, loved it, loved it, and so grateful to be here with all you beautiful people.
Oh, thank you, Julie. So let me ask, how many of you have listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast? Okay, are in store for a phenomenal experience. Those telepathy tape podcasts are done so well that you get drawn into the story. It's like sitting around a campfire with your favorite storyteller. Those podcasts are they are an achievement in storytelling, and you'll love them. I can't recommend them more highly enough. They're just really, really good. So I just want to say one other thing, Julie, what you said about love. I was listening to another podcast today, and love was described as fuel. And fuel, that is what it is. And that's why as you unify, you have more fuel, right? And there's just so many ways of looking at it. But yeah, so love is fuel. And the more fuel you have through unification, through the concept of forgiveness, which is not what is normally, forgiveness is unification. It's seeing the other as yourself, right? So yeah, absolutely. So love, love, love. Love is the medium of communication, isn't it? It is like the key code that unlocks the universal communication code. And yeah, connection allows flow. Thank you, Kendall. Can you tell that this was exciting for all of us? Okay. Cindy, the head of the table.
Kind of wish Zoom was round. When I go to get my new computer, I'm gonna see if they have round screens instead of squares. Julie said a lot of what I wanted to say, and you mentioned some of it, but now it's gonna come through in my own words. And speaking to Livy and everyone that keeps insisting they're taking too much time, I want to say I'm going to take as long as it needs, whether that's 60 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. This whole idea of rushing through these conversations isn't how we do things at an open door. I loved this conversation, loved the love of this conversation. Not surprised by the kids' abilities and their communication. That's just something that makes sense to me. The pieces of it, as I was sitting with my inner wisdom, listening to it, going, asking, so how can this inform me in a way that's useful to Cindy and to an open door and to everything we're doing here? There are a couple things, and one of them you touched on it, and I didn't remember the 3 levels, but I've been sitting a lot with where am I blocking the miraculous? Not from a personal viewpoint. You're not like there's no negativity, by the way. These are positive questions, but really this understanding that the human mind discounts things that it doesn't understand by course, and then it can get violent. It got violent in the days where, the world was flat, not round, and got violent in the days where the earth was the center of the universe, and, people losing medical licenses because the human collective doesn't want to agree with whatever. So that's the macrocosm. And this is a beautiful example, but I literally am sitting with where in my life right now am I just assuming things are a certain way because I'm not allowing the miraculous in. And that's really, I think listening to her was huge. And it literally was less about these kids' amazing You know, I've been a psychic for a really long time. I used to talk to dead people, and people used to pay. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I was a spiritualist minister. I talked to dead people. I had a lot of mystical experiences. Those things don't surprise me. It, it, um, it's this the other stuff. And then when she was said that she didn't even realize it was just a year. Like it was Valentine's Day when they were doing the interview or whatever. She's talking to the kids, and they were reminding her that all of this took place in her world in just a year, right? And and she said that the key was when she surrendered. Like she was so excited, and her mind had a certain way, and it had to be the documentary. And no matter what she did, she couldn't get the funding, and she was devastated, right? She really somehow communicated that to me so well. Her life was over. Like that was extraordinarily meaningful to me, almost more useful to me than the miracles these kids can communicate with, right? And she had that converse like there's no worldly event, but the veil dropped, and a new idea showed up, sort of like an open door. Like Cindy didn't sit and decide to start an open door. It happened in sort of the same way. I'm not saying where the telepathy takes, but it's the same kind of, she said, and from the moment I started, I just stepped into surrender. I don't know if she used those words, but that's what I heard. Then everything else happened from there. And and she didn't know what she was doing from one day to the next at that point. And now within a year, her original idea for the documentary has already been filmed. You know, these kids who didn't want to leave their house are getting on airplanes. You know, they're walking up mountains when they can't feel their bodies. Like all of these things all occurred from that surrender. And so I was so touched by how much her life got changed in less than a year, essentially, by stepping into her yes of you know, what lit her up. And I want to bring that same energy here into an open door, you know, whatever that means. How surrendered can we be with what we're doing, and where are we blocking our miracles? So I wanted to say that. And then I also wanted to say, as miraculous as all those conversations are, Cindy, Cindy, the animal lover, loved the whole conversation about the dogs. That just lit me up. Like, so that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the whole conversation about um, dogs have telepathy with their owners, right? That is basically, that's a given, right? So then the question is, well, then what is consciousness? What is consciousness? Dogs have consciousness. I mean, if you're able to have to show telepathy, you must have consciousness. I mean, I just feel like the lid is about to be blown off this little cauldron that we live in. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting. The other thing she said, and then let me say this, and then Sandra, um, she talked about how in these kids, less connection with the body may be a key, because our brains are a reduction valve. And so if we're not really trying to inhabit the body in the same way and control the body, it frees other things up to be made manifest. It frees our attention up to be expressed in other ways. And so if we're not having to be in tune with our bodies and all the signals that the bodies are telling us are going on, we can be attuned to our emotions or attuned to the love. And I was thinking about this in terms of higher entropy and lower entropy, which is another podcast that some of us were listening to. And so high entropy is essentially chaos in the physics field. High entropy is a chaotic series of signals, whatever you want to call it. And low entropy is more is low chaos. It's more cohesive. It's more harmonious. It's more in attunement. And so when we get into the meditative state, or we're not worried about the chaos of the body, we're able to go into a more low entropy state and actually hit that flow because we're not chaotic. So we can hit the flow and maintain that flow in which the information of harmony is contained. I don't know if I explained that very well. Anyway, but that goes back to Julie's point and Libby's point about love being a universal conductor. It's a connector and a conductor, right? Um, oh, the last thing I want to say, I'm sorry, Sandra, I got to say this. This I found so exciting. She says, so love is this universal conductor and connector, and some people are really excited about this, but some people get, she used the term wigged out. They get wigged out, right? Because our whole society depends upon secrecy. God, I loved this, right? So banks, government, big business, it all depends on friggin' secrecy, right? That's how I hold my scarcity, the things that I have so close and don't share them with you. You don't know what I have. You don't know where they are. You don't know what my thoughts are. But non-speakers say you have to clean up your thoughts in order for this whole thing to work, right? Clean them up. Yeah, Kendall, animals aren't bogged down by this, right? And what does the Course say? The ego is contained in the body, right? So non-speakers who may not have bodily functions, we look down on them and say that because you don't have bodily functions, you're a non-functioning human being. But actually they're functioning at a higher level than those of us who are so caught up in keeping the body, the fence we build around ourselves, love, right? Keeping that functioning. So you have to clean up your thoughts in order for this to work. Cleaning up your thoughts makes this possible. And that means total transparency, total transparency. And that's unity, right? And Mel, I'm going to call on you at some point here because I really want to know if you watch this, what you think. But she said, change what's in your mind. This is the first step in this evolution, is to really start realizing, coming to grips with what is going on in your mind. Because if consciousness is fundamental, if it's that top thing at the pyramid, then what's going on in your mind is critical. And Sandra, I know you had your hand raised, and I am now going to.
Well, did you want to speak with Melanie first?
No, you and then Mel.
Okay. Hi, Amy. I just love your enthusiasm. You're lit up like a light bulb. You're glowing. I don't know if you feel it. Do you feel that?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
You're glowing, and it's so beautiful. And that's the first thing, my first biggest impression right now. And all the things you pointed out and everyone else pointed out, same for me. I mean, I wrote down some of those very quotes. And I guess the thing I would add is I don't think actually that these children have special abilities. I think we all have these abilities.
Right.
And I think that we all experience these things and we disregard it, or we push it away in some way. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I know I experience it, so it didn't feel at all like I think Cindy said this. It didn't feel like wow or any of that, because this is just a part of my life and has been since I was a young child. And also with my children. I mean, I wouldn't have called it telepathy. I would have just called it instinctual with my children. So I think, like you just said, what happens is we put ourselves in these boxes, these structures, concepts, mental structures, and we start blocking the very natural human energetic field that reaches beyond the body, and we stop letting things in. And we stop. I mean, hasn't everybody experienced being stared at in the car, and then you go and look and somebody is staring at you, and you look right in the right direction? That person was staring at me. I mean, I felt that so many times. I had a daughter, the daughter, you know about Megan, I'd love to talk about her, so I'm going to talk about her for a minute. She was 3 years old when her daycare person came to me and said, "You need to give this girl music lessons." I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah. Have you heard her sing? She sings these long," and she wasn't using words, she was humming, like just using like made up stuff. So I just disregarded that. I said, "I don't have time for music lessons. I don't have money for music lessons," you know. I was very in a box. But then later, when she was about 5, she said she wanted a piano. So none of us played the piano. Pianos cost a lot. I was a single mom, but I found this old piano and I got her lessons. And about 3 months into the lessons, she said, "I do not like these lessons. I don't want lessons." I said, "Okay." But we've got the piano. So I come down one morning and a 6-year-old little girl is playing Moonlight Sonata with no music. No music. She wasn't playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I don't know if she'd ever heard Moonlight Sonata because we didn't play classical music in our home. I don't know where that came from. I had to look it up actually. Then another day she played for Elise.
Mm.
So then I took her back to the music teacher who could not explain this, and I could not explain it. And in my busy life, I just went on. But Megan went on to play music. Every time she would play music in the house, I would put everything down, go sit in the living room and listen to her play. Because it was just so beautiful and so otherworldly
Mm.
and so amazing. So the whole idea of she never had any physical injury to her brain or anything like that. I think she was just born with that somehow. So I loved hearing about that. I love hearing about the savants. Honestly, I always knew she was different. I always knew that she had trouble communicating with others. That she said the kids said she talked too much. She talked in a larger vocabulary than other kids, and they did not want to hear what she had to say, right? She liked talking to adults. So that's just something I wanted to share about my beautiful Megan, one of my real joys of being her mom. And just knowing that, you know, coming into these awakening, these spiritual meetings, just gives me so much joy in thinking back on her life and not any regret at all. So I wanted to share that. But the thing you pointed out that really struck me, and I had to go back and rewind and write this down, was multiple things can be true. The opposite of a profound truth may very well be another profound truth. That just spoke to me so deeply in my struggle with the dual, non-dual. It's like, my experience is so both. And it was like, I always felt like I was trying to be pushed into thinking one way that wasn't my true experience. And I think that was another thing that was said that hasn't been mentioned. Reading about something, learning about something isn't the something. It's the experience of it. You know, like you said about tasting. It's so we can learn about all of these things, but it's not what it is. It's the experience. It's the knowing that comes through the experience that has guided, I'm not going to say pathway because I don't feel like it's a path, this meandering journey, meandering all over the place through many teachers and many different truths. It's always the one thing that I know is true is when I experience it. And I experience love here all the time. I love that you brought up love, all of you. I mean, just coming here, we emanate love. That's like the truest thing I experience here is the love.
I
And
love
the sincerity of it, the no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like nothing can come into my mind to make me think, oh, that's not really love. Likes to do that for a lot of things, but not here, not in this space. There's no doubt about it. It's here. It's beyond the intellectual. So I just, what the bottom line for this is, I am coming to just trust it. And just like a deep trust, we learned in our 12-step program, let go and let God. Well, it's even bigger than that. It's trust the knowing presence that is me and all of you. Just trust it, and no more, like, the debates are gone. That's such a relief. All the little debates in the head that wants to analyze and figure it out and make it into a geometry proof of some kind. I've been able to let that go. Maybe that's the surrender that Cindy's talking about. It's like a deep acceptance that somehow we are all waking up together. And it's beautiful. It's awe-inspiring. It's lovely. It's all those good things. So I'm just going to keep coming and soaking in it. Soaking. I'm in this beautiful place with you, all of you. And thank you for this, Amy. Thank you for your bright, beautiful light that shines and informs.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the fuel. It's the love fuel. Okay, let's see. I don't want to put you on the spot, Mel. If you have nothing to say, then that's okay.
Oh, well, everything just resonates. And when Sandra, when you're talking about love, it just pointed to me the Helen Hamilton's non-dual love, which is, it's kind of, you were talking about, you take one view and then there's the polar opposite. There can be a synthesis that takes you to a higher level. And so that's what non-dual, is is at a higher level where it's all inclusive. And I just love that. You could just really feel that. Yes. And
Yeah, and that would be a low entropy situation because everything that is in it is harmonized, right? You can't include everything if it's not all in sync with itself, right?
yeah,
So that would be low entropy or higher harmony, higher love.
yeah,
And that's the paradox. It's also one,
yeah,
right?
yeah. When I was listening to this, she talked about people with dementia and how they can, communicate suddenly. And it made me remember when Adi Shanti was talking. I don't know if you remember him talking about a time he went into a nursing home and he walked, this woman was almost like catatonic in a wheelchair. And when he went by, she just kind of like woke up and was totally alert. Something, she sent, there was that presence that spoke to what she is, just was there. It was there. And as you say, when you don't have the body is so distracting. And I can see how these children, when they're not consumed with all the body signals and all that, they don't have that distraction. They can tap into, that essence of who they really are. And that was so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I did question when she did say about clearing your thoughts, I did question who does that? And can we do that? Can we control our thoughts? I don't know if we can actually control our thoughts. But then at the end, in contrast to that, when she talked about her surrender, and when I love the quote where she said, the master does nothing, but everything gets done. She actually she did that. She surrendered and everything got taken care of. So in a way, I think that's a surrender that's critical as opposed to trying to clear your thoughts. Isn't that the ego trying to clear your thoughts? As opposed to being surrendering and then it happens at a whole different level. But I think she did that. I think that's what she really exemplified.
So, Mel, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when we talk about surrendering our thoughts, is that the same as being the witness, the one witness, and allowing any thought to arise within the awareness, in the space of awareness?
As long as you don't make the witness another entity,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no self there. It's just happening. And there's no one doing any of that. It's just what arises. And if you don't hold, there's no clinging on to it, it'll, keep. It's trusting what, Sandy was telling us, trusting in the one hand doing everything and allowing, and that just is working through us. It's so simple that it's so hard to explain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's the spaciousness in a way.
Yes, we are the opening for whatever comes through as it allows.
Yeah. So that's that spaciousness in which everything arises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's unifying in its own way. Yeah. Thank you for that share. Anything else? Okay. All right. I have one more thing that I want to say, and then yeah, I do too, Michelle. What do we do with all this? She asked at the very end. Remember that? And then I also want to call on Sandra and then Rana, because I want to give Rana a chance to say something. And she said, we tune in, we all live in this vast field of consciousness, and some people can tune into it with varying degrees of connection. And she said, we all have these abilities, as Sandra said, we all do, because we've all had the experience when the phone rings and you know who's on the other end, or you get a letter from someone that you've been thinking about. And remote viewing is, it's being taught. But what she said is, what do we do with this? And this is what I just love also, this lights me up, is teaching kids how to do this. And she talked about, and I know that this is true in England, but I think it's also true in other parts of Europe, where we're teaching kids how to, she said, do puzzles blindfolded, or foretelling events, helping kids in a way that keeps their childhood but reinforces their natural intuitive ability instead of stifling it or denying it, actually very lovingly bringing it out and strengthening it, empowering it in them. And that's, to me, where we go. That's one place that we could go. So Sandra, and then Rana, if Rana wants to share. Okay.
Let's turn it over to Rana now, please.
Okay. Rana, would you like to share?
Sure. Sure. I was very pleased listening to this week's video. And my daughter has cerebral palsy and it's pretty profound. She's in a wheelchair and she didn't speak until she was 3. So I had 3 years of caregiving a special needs child that didn't come with an instruction book. So that was always really interesting. And there were a lot of intuitive examples of how I learned to care for her that just sort of came through the relationship of it. Um, she couldn't really suck very well. So, I tried like 12 different types of bottle tops in order nipples to get, and I would just pour it like into her mouth anyway. And when we met her first speech therapist, she said, "How did you know to do that?" She said that child would have starved, so that's just like one example. But Kylie, I used to always say she used her eyes. Like I would ask her questions, and then based on her eyes, I could tell whether it was yes or no. And I really appreciated in the video kind of what Melanie pointed to about this clearing of thought. And I didn't know this is what was going on, but I can see that this is what was going on. Like just emptying the mind in the moment with her and just being there and just sort of like, tell me what to do next, What do you need? And then, like I said, I always had the questions there that were ready to ask in order to help her with whatever was there. So she did say her first word at 3, and the word was booger. And she said that to her occupational therapist named Diane, who is still in our lives today, 23 years later. And what I've also seen is that Kylie pulls people into her world as she has needed things over the years, the teachers, the therapists, the doctors. It's very interesting. I did discover, I'm not sure when, that like it's tiring sometimes taking care of her. And a lot of times before, she would be all I was thinking about because, of course, she did not have a perfect body in the way we're conditioned. And so there was a sense of her being different and lacking and those kind of things, right? But also, she has acute hearing. I mean, crazy acute hearing, And the stuff about being grounded. I found that if I sat in front of her when she was in her wheelchair, because her feet never touch anything, when her feet touch something, her body pushes and she can't stop that. She can't moderate that. So we just let the feet dangle. But I found that if I sit in front of her and hold her feet and envision it going through her, through me to the ground, you see her whole body relax. And it doesn't work all the time. She's got to be very receptive to this. I learned how to do craniosacral therapy when she was about 8. And the reason I learned is because we went to a therapist and I watched her body just melt into positions that had never happened. So I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this. And she would not let me touch her. It's like I was mom. I'm not supposed to be the therapist. She just wanted me to love her. She didn't want me to try to fix her, you know.
Mm.
Her body just works differently. But I knew that she was in there from the get-go. I knew she was. And so did Diane. And I think that encouragement, like you said, I tell Kylie all the time, you're super smart. Because she is. I don't know what the running tape is in there. I have no idea. Her speaking is labored today. But the last thing I'll just end with this. If I'm standing in a room and I think about her enough, she will call me on this monitor. And so I have to be very careful because, like right now, she's going to take a nap. But if I sat here and really focused on her, I would hear mom, you know. So I do have my own direct experiences with this. And I've asked her, can you read my mind? And she says, oh, yeah, which can be scary because I'm not always nice mommy in my mind, or I wasn't at one time. So much better now because she's not something for me to get done anymore. She's something for me to love. And that's, you guys are giving me that patience to just be with her in her beingness, and not just trying to get her finished, get it done and go do what I want to do. So thank you for the opportunity to share. She definitely has been such a spiritual gift in my life. So,
Wow, thank you, Rana. That's it's so nice to be able to hear from someone who has direct experience with this. And sometimes I wish you would share more often about some of this stuff. But I really appreciate your sharing today. It was lovely. Yeah, really great. Yeah, well, tell her thank you very much from all of us, and that we think about her. And
she loves you. She does.
yeah,
There's no coincidence at how I can behave and be with her because of truth,
mm,
because she's not broken.
no,
No.
no, mm-mm, that's beautiful. I know Sandra had her hand up.
I can't remember anything after hearing Rana. She just moved me to tears, and I want to thank you for that, Rana. The love of a mother for their child and the connection, the deep connection. And then when you said she just wants me to love her, yes. I do think at the end, this lady said something like there were three things to hold the space. And she called it holding the space for these children. And I think it's true for everybody, not just children, and not just what we label as disabled children. She said, a loving presence, a believing in their competency, and attention. A loving presence, believing in their competency, attention. Isn't that what every human wants?
Mm, I'm taking that note. Um, Thank you for that. That's what we do with each other here, isn't it? We give each other loving attention. We believe that each one of us is competent, right? And we pay attention. Like, I don't know any group of people that I can be with that pays attention the way all of you do. We just listen. What a gift. One more thing I want to say before we go. She talked about dreaming. They talked about, and I found this, and I'd love to hear, just open this for discussion for the next. She talked about, should we pay, well, Andre said, should we pay more attention to dreams? And she said, yes. And then the story she told about Kyle and how he showed her how in lucid, to open up lucid dream, he'd open an umbrella or he'd put a piece of ice in her mouth or something like that. And how he could play music and have perfect pitch, just like Sandra's daughter. And then he and his mom collaborated on writing music in their dreams, and he is now giving recitals and has produced 2 albums. Um, wow. One of the things that comes to me is what a gift this is to the receiving parent. And usually it's the mother, but to the receiving parent who is then able to join with the the being that seems to be in this broken body, if they're willing to merge the creative capacity in that merger and in that communication. I just, I mean, it's just got to be exponentially, dimensionally, it just has to open things up across dimensions, across time, exponentially. But we don't value that, do we? Like we make the moms work. If the mom can't work, like Sandra couldn't work, so she didn't have time, she couldn't pay attention. If we could give each other time to pay attention, to do that caretaking, if we could value caretaking as a highly, highly developable skill and a highly valued skill, whoa, it would change everything. Livy.
I was just going to say it. Um, I am interested because I have a dear friend who's already passed from early onset Alzheimer's at age 61. And then y'all know about my 2 friends who one is 63 and one is 66, who are both in memory care now. And it's just interesting. Yeah, it makes me want to do more reading or listening to the telepathy or whatever with people whose memories are challenged. And, to kind of, yeah, that it, and it's interesting that um, yeah, so because that does seem to be happening to, if when I have a friend like who have a physical um, issue related to their death, that's something that I can go and I can be with them and we're present with each other. And what does puzzle me is more people I know getting dementia at such a young age that it does make me or inspire me to research more how to the expression of love and the expression of telepathy, how that's used in dementia and Alzheimer's patients. So just wanted to mention that as well, to be able to use this guidance in communicating with them, going forward. So, one of them I've known for 50 years, and she no longer knows who I am, And so just sort of, yeah, so that's just inspired me to, um, and kind of warmed my heart at the possibility of just further communication in some way. So I hope that made sense. But anyway, yeah, it just opens up so many doors that I never even knew were cracked to be opened a little further. So yeah, really grateful for that. So thank you for letting me share that. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Livy. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's 1 o'clock. Um, thank you all. We could probably go for another hour or so, but Yeah, so maybe we can all listen to season 2 of the telepathy tapes that are coming out in October, Julie said. But for now, I just want to thank everybody for being here and sharing and how much, just I so looked forward this morning to getting up because I knew we were going to be talking about this. And for those who want to, we'll see you at 4 o'clock, and we're going to be on the answer to all questions, page 245 of A Course in Miracles. And I'll be taking, at the very beginning, I'll taking names for people who want to read. And so we'll be sharing the reading and talking about what's in there. So see you all later. Thank you, Cindy. Love us.